Have you ever thought that even the most luxurious cruise can turn into an unimaginable nightmare? Imagine walking on the deck with a glass of champagne in hand suddenly turning into a fight for survival among giant waves. Yeah, these kinds of stories happen when ships get caught in storms with a force of 12 on the Beaufort scale. 23. On March 23, 2019, the world almost witnessed a tragedy reminiscent of the legendary Titanic. The cruise ship Viking Sky found itself at the epicenter of a powerful storm off the coast of Norway. The cruise ship Viking Sky found itself at the epicenter of a powerful storm off the coast of Norway. The ship left the Norwegian city of Bergen and set off on a 12-day journey along the coast of Norway, and then it was supposed to head to the British port of Tilbury. There were 1,373 people on board the ship, including 215 passengers. When the ship was near the city of Tromsø on its way to the port of Stavanger, something unexpected happened. All 4 engines of the ship failed. The uncontrollable ship was at the mercy of the elements. The crew immediately sent out a distress signal. Rescue services responded immediately, but the high waves made it impossible for rescue ships to get close to the distressed vessel. Helicopters capable of carrying 10 to 15 people at a time were used for the evacuation. Thanks to the professionalism and quick response of the rescuers, all passengers and crew members were successfully evacuated. At one point, the ship was just 328 feet from the shallow waters and half a mile from shore, which allowed the crew to anchor the vessel and keep it in place. After that, rescuers managed to evacuate nearly 500 people using helicopters. On the morning of March 24th, the couple was able to get moving with the help of 2 powerful tugboats. Then the rescuers, along with the crew, managed to start 3 of the 4 engines. By lunchtime that same day, the evacuation of passengers from the cruise ferry was completed. Helicopters brought 479 people from those who were on board down to the ground. 17 people were hospitalized. This incident reminds us of the importance of being prepared for emergencies and how crucial it is to have reliable safety systems on maritime vessels. A vacation on the cruise ship Norwegian Breakaway turned into unexpected challenges for its passengers. Instead of a relaxing vacation in the Bahamas and a smooth sail to New York, they faced the harsh reality of a storm that turned their trip into a real nightmare. The captain of the ship made a risky decision to go through a severe storm, which made the trip unbearable for many tourists. The liner, which usually offers luxurious amenities for its guests, including pools, restaurants, bars, and shops, turned into a trap. All the entertainment venues closed down, and passengers had to find shelter from the water seeping in and deal with seasickness. Some passengers spent days in life jackets, fearing that the ship might sink. Others stayed in their cabins, suffering from nausea and complaining about the lack of information from the crew. Water was pouring in through the elevator shafts and flooding the lobby, forcing people to sleep right in the hallway. This incident happened in January 2018 when the Norwegian Breakaway, with 4,000 passengers on board, ran into a tropical hurricane. Even though the ship had a displacement of 320 million pounds and was over 984 feet long, its size and structural strength couldn't protect the passengers from the horrifying conditions of the journey. For many, this cruise was a real test of endurance, and some passengers took to social media to express their outrage, vowing never to use this cruise line again. Anthem of the Seas, a massive cruise ship, withstood a storm in February 2017. Waves 29.5 feet high hit the ship. The huge vessel, comparable in height to a 15-story building, found itself in the center of stormy waves, but thanks to its size it was able to withstand the elements. Sitting at the level of the third deck, passengers watched as enormous waves, reaching heights of up to 29.5 feet, crashed against the sides of the ship, at times completely blocking visibility through the portholes. Even though the situation looked terrifying, the tourists tried to stay calm. At times, it completely blocked visibility through the portholes. Even though the situation looked terrifying, the tourists tried to stay calm. 2 tourists were filming a video in the moment and commenting on what was happening, saying, "We're underwater right now, but we don't want to die." Despite the strength of the storm, the Anthem of the Seas successfully weathered the bad weather. At the time of the incident, there were over 6,000 people on board. However, only 4 passengers were injured due to the severe rocking. This incident once again demonstrated the reliability of modern cruise ships, which are capable of withstanding natural disasters. In May 2023, the cruise ship Carnival Sunshine found itself at the center of a severe storm, near the coast of South Carolina, USA. The ship, returning to Charleston after a week-long tour in the Bahamas, faced powerful waves and winds on Memorial Day. Videos posted that day by vacationers showed the devastating aftermath of the storm. Flooded hallways, torn-off doors, mountains of shattered glass and debris. Many passengers complained about feeling worse and experiencing bouts of nausea. Flooded hallways, torn-off doors, mountains of shattered glass and debris. Many passengers complained about feeling worse and experiencing bouts of nausea. Several cabins had to be evacuated due to water intrusion. A representative from Carnival stated that only a small group of passengers and crew members needed medical assistance. He noted that due to the bad weather conditions, the next trip had to be postponed. The ship safely returned after the incident, after which it was set to embark on a new 5-day cruise to the Bahamas. In November 2023, the cruise ship Spirit of Discovery, owned by Saga Cruises, encountered a severe storm in the Bay of Biscay while on its route around the Canary Islands. There were about 1,000 people on board the ship. The ship, which had set sail from the UK, planned to cut its 2-week trip short due to worsening weather conditions. But off the coast of Spain and France, it was hit by 29-foot waves. The rough seas resulted in injuries to about 100 passengers, most of whom were elderly. One of the passengers on the trip described the situation like this: numerous fractures, wounds, stitches. It was terrible. Another passenger, 60-year-old Richard Reynolds, told the Daily Mail that people were screaming, trying to save their lives. And everything was falling apart and crashing around us. Some passengers even sent farewell messages to their loved ones, thinking they might not survive. The ship remained stationary for about 15 hours until the storm passed. After that, the ship was able to safely arrive at port, which happened on Monday, November 7th. 5 passengers had to be hospitalized. In December 2023, the Norwegian cruise ship MS Maut ran into serious trouble in the North Sea due to a storm. There were 266 passengers and 131 crew members on board the ship. The ship lost control and was drifting in the North Sea. The storm wave shattered several windows on the ship, causing damage. A representative from the Coordination Center during the search and rescue operations reported that there was no electricity on the ship, although the main engine was still running. The navigation systems and radars failed. The incident happened about 124 miles off the west coast of Denmark and 205 miles off the east coast of the UK. Water got onto the ship's bridge, which led to a power outage. The company that owns the ship stated that as a result of the incident, no passengers or crew members were seriously injured, and the condition of the vessel was stable. The MS Maud left a Norwegian port and was supposed to arrive at the British port of Tilbury on December 22, 2023. In the end, the ship was towed to the nearest Danish port. November 2024 turned out to be a real test for the cruise ship from Royal Caribbean. The cruise ship, carrying about 5,000 people, was on its route from Spain to Miami when it unexpectedly ran into stormy conditions off the coast of Africa. The wind speed reached 97 miles per hour, and when the ship was passing near the island of Tenerife, a powerful gust tilted it at a 45-degree angle. The ship stayed in that position for a full 3 minutes, which caused panic among the passengers. Many of them started sending farewell messages to their relatives, thinking they were facing a fate like the Titanic. There was significant damage on board. Windows and furniture were damaged, which led to injuries for dozens of people. Items scattered across the deck created additional hazards, making the situation worse. Passengers were having a hard time keeping their balance and were often falling. One of the passengers, Dan from Toronto, shared his memories of that moment. Everything was happening so fast, it felt like we were in a disaster movie. I thought my life was ending, so I sent a farewell message to my family. Some passengers were asking me to come over to them. And we were hugging, realizing that the worst could happen. Fortunately, no one went overboard, although in those conditions, falling into the cold water could have been fatal. The crew started checking for all passengers only 2.5 hours after the incident. If someone had actually gone overboard, the chances of survival would have been almost none. After the situation was stabilized, all passengers were asked to return to their cabins for a head count and to assess their health. Royal Caribbean later reported that one of the passengers sustained serious injuries and needed additional medical assistance. Because of this, the 12-day cruise had to be interrupted in the port of Las Palmas, Spain, where the injured passenger was taken ashore for the necessary assistance. 14. In February 2005, the cruise ship Voyager, traveling from Tunisia to Barcelona, found itself at the epicenter of a powerful storm in the Mediterranean Sea. About 62 miles from the island of Menorca, the ship's communication and power control systems failed. The Grand Voyager, measuring 590 feet long and 85 feet wide, was facing serious difficulties. Out of 4 engines, only one was operational, and the ship sent out a distress signal. Despite this, the liner was still able to move slowly forward thanks to the one working engine and having 50% of its electrical power. Out of the 4 engines, only one was working, and the ship sent out a distress signal. Despite this, the liner was still able to move slowly forward thanks to the one working engine and having 50% of its electrical power. There were 791 people on board the ship. 7. But what about one person out of 477 passengers? Passengers and 313 crew members. About 20 people were injured. All the injured received the necessary assistance. After the distress signal was received, French rescuers, 2 tugboats, and several observation planes arrived at the scene. Representatives from V-Ships Monaco, the company that owns the vessel, reported that the crew managed to get 2 of the 4 engines running. The Voyager returned to the port of Cagliari on the island of Sardinia on February 15, 2005. During a cruise through the Drake Passage, where the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans meet between the southern tip of South America and Antarctica, the luxury yacht Atlas World Voyager ran into a storm. On December 2, 2023, the cruise ship faced a fierce storm off the coast of Antarctica. Winds reaching up to 115 miles per hour whipped the sea into a frenzy, crashing 98-foot waves onto the ship during the perilous journey. The crew skillfully navigated the yacht through the treacherous waters. A breathtaking clip from eyewitnesses shot on the deck shows the yacht climbing to the top of massive waves, then tilting and plummeting down from several stories high. After the deck got flooded, tables, chairs, lounge chairs, and other items were floating everywhere. Fortunately, despite the raging storm, the yacht reached its destination in Ushuaia, in southern Argentina, without any serious damage. 2023. The year turned out to be rich in storms that cruise ships found themselves in, as terrible as that sounds. One such incident was the event on June 25th, when passengers on the ship Independence of the Seas found themselves in the eye of a storm off the coast of France. Passengers on the open decks were trying to get to their cabins when the tropical downpour started. Either no one warned them about the looming threat, or they thought they could handle the bad weather. They were capturing all that chaos on video. Watching people try to brave the elements, even through a screen, is definitely not for the faint of heart. The wind was picking up speed, reaching between 55 and 60 miles per hour. Chairs and umbrellas were flying across the deck. Passengers were looking for shelter, gripping the handrails to avoid being swept away by the wind. Lounge chairs were falling on top of them, creating an extra hazard. The storm caught the liner just before it entered the Caribbean Sea. However, as the media points out, the storm passed as suddenly as it began, leaving behind broken beach umbrellas and damaged recreational equipment. For tourists, these moments became some of the most memorable of their entire trips. Maybe it was this adventure at Cape Canaveral that stuck in their minds for a long time. Even though modern cruise ships have advanced navigation systems that provide real-time information about approaching storms and help avoid them in time, exceptions do happen. However, those who have personally gone through such trials are unlikely to find comfort in knowing how rare these events are. Will forever remain in our memories, a reminder of how fragile our sense of safety can sometimes be. Hey friends, I have an interesting offer for you. You have a unique opportunity to become part of our team. If you have video editing skills, can voice over videos in Russian, English, and other languages, or write interesting scripts, we would be happy to work with you. Message our Telegram bot. The link is in the description. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching.